Hokum is the latest supernatural horror effort from Irish writer-director Damien McCarthy. Following his impressive 2024 film Oddity, in this 2026 release, a horror novelist travels to a remote Irish inn to scatter his late parents' ashes in a place tied to their honeymoon. What begins as a personal reflective trip quickly turns eerie when the lead actor learns the property is rumored to be haunted by an ancient witch, with particular legends swirling around the locked honeymoon suite. As he interacts with the inn's staff and delves deeper into the local folklore, disturbing visions and a mysterious disappearance force him to confront supernatural forces as well as unresolved issues from his own past. On paper, the premise sounds atmospheric and full of potential. Isolated Irish setting with sorry, with folk horror elements, a grieving writer protagonist, and a haunted history all suggest a film that could build rich tension. McCarthy has proven himself skilled at this kind of storytelling, and I went in with high expectations after the film Oddity. That earlier movie succeeded brilliantly with a unrelenting sense of dread, clever use of supernatural artifacts, and generally scary sequences that lingered long after the credits rolled. It felt meticulously crafted, patient, and effective at getting under your skin. Sadly, Hokum does not reach the same heights for me. I couldn't pay much attention to this film as the cinema was full of children running around and talking loudly throughout the screening in the cinema, which constantly pulled me out of any immersion. Even accounting for those distractions and piecing together what I did manage to see, the movie felt underwhelming and too hyped up on social media. Trailers and early buzz painted it as one of the scariest horror releases of 2026 so far, building anticipation for a new modern classic from McCarthy. In reality, large portions of the film drag significantly. The slow burn approach worked so well in Oddity. Here it just feels slow and boring with long stretches of dialogue and character introspection that fail to hold interest or advance the horror effectively for me. The reliance on jump scares is particularly disappointing rather than earning its frights through atmosphere and dread. Don't get me wrong, there is some in this movie, but Hokum deploys too many abrupt scares that land with a thud. Their telegraphed lack proper build up and feel more irritating than terrifying. Without the strong foundational tension that made Oddity so memorable, these moments come across as cheap attempts to jolt the audience rather than generally unsettling ones. The witch lore and haunting in setting had potential for creepy visuals and folkloric unease, but they're underutilized, leaving the supernatural elements feeling sporadic and unconvincing for me. Another major issue is the lead performance. Adam Scott is a talented actor with great range, but his portrayal of his character in this movie comes off as extremely unlikable. The character's arrogance, self-absorption, and grafting demeanor made it difficult to invest in his plight or care whether he uncovers the truth about the witch or escapes the inn alive. His The emotional disconnect weakens the entire film as horror often relies on at least some sympathy or relatable characters for the protagonist. The supporting cast fares better in moments, but they can't compensate for the central character's shortcomings. Visually, the film has some nice touches. The misty Irish countryside and shadowy interiors of the old inn create a fittingly gloomy mood, and at times, however, these aesthetics strengthen strengths enough to overcome the pacing problems and lack of sustained scares. By the time the climax arrives, the build up hasn't paid off in a satisfying way for me, or also a memorable way. In the end, Hokum is a letdown that fails to capitalize on its promising setup and McCarthy's evident talent. While still, while I still keep an eye on the director's future projects, hoping for a return to Oddity's level of dread, this one feels like it was oversold by marketing and social media chatter, with the cinema distractions compounding my issues with the film itself. It simply didn't deliver the horror experience I was hoping for. So my review for this film is 1.5 out of 5. You should approach this film with lower expectations, or wait for a home viewing where you can maybe focus better. But for me, because I couldn't really focus on the movie as much, because, as I said in my review, there was just children running around everywhere, and it was hard for me to actually engage with the film. I did get up and complain a few times to cinema staff, but unfortunately, the staff are teenagers themselves, and they're very limited to what they can do in regards to this kind of situation. So, unfortunately for me, I couldn't really, even if I wanted to, I couldn't even pay much attention to the movie because there was just children running around everywhere in the cinema. So, as I said previously, my review for this film is 1.5 out of 5. Might revisit this when it back again when it comes out on home movies or streaming services and watch it again. Maybe my review might be different because then I can focus on the movie more. But unfortunately, for now, for what I got out of it, my review for this movie is 1.5 out of 5. Unfortunately.